Okay, for part 2 of the lab, we're going to pick up on page 26 of Mr. Bolstad's instructions, and we're going to build another map in another part of Minnesota. So my preference is to insert a new map. And Mr. Bolstad has stated that this is in the Cloquet Forestry Center area, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. So he recommends that we name this map Cloquet. So we will do that. I'm going to add data to my map. So I'll go to Map, Add Data. I'm going to browse to the folder where I keep my materials, and I happen to pop up right there. We're not going to use any of the files that we've already used, so I'm going to go Shift to select everything, and then I'm going to hit Control, and I'm going to deselect wetlands, roads, and lakes. I will be using the CL roads layer, but not the roads layer. So I'll add all of these to my map. And now I can see all of these layers. For this map layout, we're going to actually create 2 maps and have an inset in our map. So we'll do that by inserting another new map layer. And then I'm going to add just the vegetation layer to this map. And this is the point in the class at which I'm going to give you guys carte blanche to not follow Mr. Bolstad's instructions and to branch out and be creative about how you're going to visualize this data, because there's a lot of different ways to approach things, and I think it's important to explore your options there. So I'm going to look at this one. It's obviously vegetation of different types, and I'm going to start out looking at the attribute table for this to see what I might be able to express about this data. You'll notice a lot of stuff that we're probably not going to get a ton of use out of, except this C type seems to correspond to these. Doesn't look like there's any other grouping that we could apply here. So I'm just going to use the cover type to categorize our data a little bit. So for me, I'm going to go in and do unique values and apply a cover type to that. I'm not a big fan of pastels, but feel free to express yourself. And I'm going to give some different colors to those layers. That might be a little too colorful. I'm going to find some nice greens. That looks like vegetation. There we go. I've got vegetation. I've got my background map. One of the things that Mr. Bolstad was trying to show you is we're going to be expressing this as kind of an outline layer. So this guy right here, first of all, we want it to draw on top of the map. So right now it's in the correct draw order, but we don't want to see the map through it. So we're just going to help represent this as an outline by showing the same color for the fill as for the outline. And I need to apply that to show it. That looks a little trippy. Not exactly like Mr. Bolstad's, but it'll work for what we're trying to achieve. And now I'm going to make a map that shows both of these, well, sorry, I'm going to make a layout that shows both of these maps. One of them as an inset to help position the other. So I'm going to insert a new layout. And for this one, I'm going to go with a landscape view. And I'm going to add my maps to that layout. The one that I want to be larger is the detail map. So I will add that first. And then I'm going to add another map frame to show the inset view. I'm going to put that here. If it's not positioned how I want it, I can go activate that view and move it around. Unfortunately, my map here is limited, so I'm only going to be able to offset that. So maybe what I really want to do, first I need to close this in order to exit it, is to resize that map frame a little bit, and then activate and reposition. And I need to close the activation to come back to editing this map. You can make it a little bit easier to continue editing by renaming these. So I can call this one inset to make sure I know which map I'm working at. And then I'll call this one detail. Oops. I renamed the wrong part. So I just renamed my map, but that's okay, I like it. I'm going to call this detail also. So now I have two different map frames displayed on the same map. I'm going to go ahead and get everything tuned up the way I want to, add the classic map elements like a scale and a north arrow and a title. One other nice thing that I can do in a map that has an inset is add an extent indicator to show where the other portion of the map is pulling from. So I would do that on the broader scale map. And I'm going to add an extent indicator for detail. And what happens then is it's going to show the extents of detail. And these will have element properties. So I can change that symbol if I'd like. Change the outline color, make it stand out a little bit. And then I can come in and I can then, if I wish, change the extents of this layer to visualize more detailed data, and the extents outline on my inset will adjust accordingly. I feel like it would be a little easier to orient myself on this map if I show the roads and these nice green rivers that I have on here that I'll probably make blue. So I'm going to do some tuning up to this map before I submit it, and then we'll call it done. And here I have a finished map. It's not necessarily how I would publish something like this. I'd probably continue to do a few more hours of tweaking on it, but it has all of the elements that I'm looking for, and it displays the data in a understandable fashion. So we'll stop right there for this exercise.